So I've been a video editor for the past 7 years, and throughout that time I've worked on many different types of projects. I worked on Emmy-winning TV shows. Just last year I had a short film that I edited that premiered at the South by Southwest Film Festival, and even this year I have a feature-length documentary that I edited that will be premiering at a major festival. So all of that is to say that I've been in the business for a little while, and if I could really pinpoint one characteristic that I think truly sets an editor apart and pulls them away from the pack, it's not the trait you might think it is. I mean, we usually would think of things like speed, keyboard shortcuts, ability to really nail pacing and tone. All of that stuff are obviously essential characteristics, but it is not the defining characteristic that will truly make you a great editor. In my opinion, if you strip all of that away, the one foundational thing that you need to develop in order to set yourself up for success and become a great editor, it's the skill of patience. But before I talk about some specific things you can do to build patience in your editing workflow, I want to first talk about why I think patience is so important and often an undervalued or overlooked characteristic that makes great editors. And there are 4 key reasons why I think patience is so fundamental in the editing process. First of all, to be a great editor, you need to review all of the footage. I'm always amazed when I speak to other editors and kind of get a window into their workflow. I'm amazed by how many editors don't actually watch everything, all of the footage, before they start editing. Granted, sometimes we're up against a clock. We have tight deadlines. We feel like we need to move quickly, and that might make us not want to or not feel like we have the time to sit through all of the footage. I think if you don't sit through all of the footage, if you don't take that time to do that properly, there is almost no way that your edit can be as powerful as the edit of somebody who does sit through all the footage. And that's because oftentimes a lot of editing is in the details, it's in the nuances. There are small little moments that we're inherently missing if we're just trying to skip to what we think are the main parts that we need to focus on. For example, if you're editing a movie and it's a dialogue scene between 2 characters, if you're rushed for time and you're trying to get through that scene as fast as possible, what you might end up doing is just watch a few takes of each actor, but not watch all of the takes. And if you don't watch all of the takes, there are some stronger performances that you might be leaving on the table. Now, let's say you do go through all the takes. Another way you might speed through the process is, well, I'm just going to focus whenever an actor is talking, I'm going to just look at that and look at those moments of their performance. Well, there you're missing all of the subtle acting that they're doing in the reaction shots. You can't skip anything if you want to cut the strongest possible version of that scene. The second reason why patience is extremely important in editing is because it requires tremendous organization. Before you start editing anything, and before you even start reviewing footage, you need to make sure that all of your assets are very clearly organized. I'm not going to go into the specifics of how you can organize a project. I can go into that into a later video. But if you skip the organizational process, what will end up happening is you will spend a lot of energy and a lot of time just looking for footage. Whereas if everything is very clearly organized, you know how to get to things very quickly. So yes, you might be spending a lot more time on the front end of your project, and it might feel like you're not being productive. Like if you're just spending all day organizing stuff, you might feel like, oh my God, I haven't made any progress today. I need to start editing because I have a tight deadline. But once you have that work front loaded, it will make the rest of your editing process a lot more smooth, a lot more efficient, and a lot quicker. There's a saying in the military that slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And I think that absolutely applies to editing. The slower you go at the beginning, the more time you take to organize everything clearly, the smoother the process is going to be. And at the end of the day, that's going to lead you to getting the edit done quicker. The other reason patience is so important in editing is because editing is a time-consuming creative process. You need to be willing to try hundreds of different versions of a scene until it feels right to you. There's this myth in the editing world that editing is all instinctual. and you just you enter a flow state and you just cut and you just do what you think feels best and you come up with a great edit. That might be true for some people. In my experience, that's not the case. Anytime I show up to edit anything, I'm always faced with this dread, this fear. There are infinite amount of ways I can go about this. I don't know what is the best possible place to start. And so ultimately what it really comes down to is you just need to start somewhere, keep developing the scene, and see how it feels to you. And if it's not feeling right, pivot, try something else. And that process goes on and on and on. I was editing a sports show recently where I had to edit basketball games. And when I was editing those games, what I wanted to do was I wanted to make the music that I used perfectly match the rhythm of the basketball game. And basketball games have lots of peaks and valleys, so the music had to match those perfectly. That took so much time because it required me to find the right music track that had a similar tempo to the game. And then I had to edit the music track to match the ebbs and flows of the game perfectly. So to just accomplish 1 minute of a basketball game, it could take me 3 hours. And that's because I was trying so many different tracks and trying to cut it in so many different ways until it felt right. And you have to be willing to do that in order to have the strongest possible version that you can present. It's easy to want to rest your laurels on the, oh, well, it's good enough. But oftentimes good enough is the trap. A lot of people can get an edit to good enough. If you want to truly elevate the edit, you need to be willing to sit with it until it feels right. But the only skill involved there is patience. It's not magic. You just try things 100 ways and ultimately you'll find the best combination. And so that leads me to the final point of why I think patience is so important and fundamental to an editor. And that is because you need patience to manage client revisions. Let's say you've cut a video 100 different ways and you finally found the combination that feels right to you. There's no guarantee that it's going to feel right to the client. We all have different opinions, different subjective tastes. So once you send it to the client, you need to be patient and willing to keep working on it until they're happy with it. That's how ultimately you're going to become the kind of editor that a client wants to keep working with. If you don't have that patience, what might end up happening is you send the cut, you're happy with it, client feedback comes, and you're immediately resentful. You're like, oh, no, it was perfect. I don't want to do it again. That feeling, that resentment comes from a lack of patience. And if you are somebody who is patient, all you need to do is listen to their feedback, take it in, and then take the time it needs to get the edit to where they're going to be happy. So that's more of like a fundamental career thing, but to become the kind of editor that clients keep coming back to, patience is the number one skill set. It's not keyboard shortcuts, it's not speed, it's patience. Everything else will build from the foundation of patience. Now that we've talked about why patience is so important, what are some things that we can do to become more patient? Patience, like anything, is a muscle that can be developed. I don't think there is one specific method you can use to keep developing it. The only thing I can talk about is things that I've been doing or I've done in my life that I have found to be helpful. Number one thing, it might feel dumb, it might seem dumb. It's actually a practice that I've started recently, but I've noticed it helped with patience tremendously, and that is morning pages. It might seem completely counterintuitive. Editing is not the writing craft. But for me, I get impatient when I'm stressed. If I have a tight deadline, if I have a lot going on in my life, if I haven't slept well, it is a lot harder for me to be patient. And so the way that I combat that is actually a technique that I learned in this book, The Artist Way by Julia Cameron. And that is when you wake up, the first thing you do is you take a journal. I'll show you mine here. I have this journal here. You wake up and you immediately write 3 pages worth. Doesn't matter what you write, whatever's on your mind. It's called stream of consciousness writing. So I'll open it real quick. You won't ever read my handwriting because it's horrible. But I open and I write. And I've been writing, for weeks at this point. And so you write until you filled 3 full pages. I wake up and I don't feel like writing, but I sit down and I go, okay, feel like crap today. I have an edit I'm stressed about. I talk about why I'm stressed about it, and I just kind of vent. And you vent for 3 pages. And what I've noticed is that it immediately reduces my stress. Because if I have all of my thoughts in here kind of clogging my brain, once I put them out on paper, it immediately releases it. That's why this practice is also called brain drain. And the best thing you can do to develop patience as an editor is to approach editing with a clean brain, a clean mindset. The other thing that I've done that's worked for me is meditation. Now, I'm not going to lie. I don't meditate every day. I don't even have a regular practice of meditation. But there was a period of my life where I was very anxious. And it's actually my mom who recommended that I try meditation. And so I got an app, I think it was the Headspace app at the time. And I just started 10 minutes a day doing these meditation practices. And even though I don't do it anymore as regularly as I should, I absolutely noticed a difference in my day-to-day when I would meditate. Similar to the writing practice, it's just you focusing on your breath. And if you have a thought, you label it and you let it go. So it's a practice that teaches you not to get upset or attached to thoughts that come in, no matter how negative. And I'm somebody who's a bit more prone to like negative thinking. And so when I'm editing, it's very common that a negative thought will come into my brain. You suck. Oh, this is a horrible edit. Oh, this is not what the client wants. All of these thoughts start coming in and they totally interrupt patience and they interrupt your editing flow. And so mindfulness is a great habit you can build up to learn how to deal with those negative thoughts when they inevitably come up in the editing process. If you want to be patient in editing and you want to do the hundreds of revisions, you need to let go of negative thoughts that come into your brain. Don't attach yourself to them. Let them come in, let them be, and just focus. That's ultimately how you're going to enter what's called the flow state. It's that magical state that you're in when you're not distracted and you can just focus. And this leads me to the final takeaway that has helped me be a lot more patient when it comes to editing, and that is breaking down your work. When you're editing, there's so much to go through that it can feel like this impossible, overwhelming cloud. So what I do is I break up this massive workload into the tiniest manageable chunks. For example, if I have all of this footage to go through, I don't worry. I don't tell myself I have to go through all of the footage. I just focus on the next 5 minutes. I just have to focus on these 5 minutes. And I go through those 5 minutes and I watch them and I digest them. Now I have to move on to the next 5 minutes. Break it down. Psychologically, it makes a big difference. And ultimately, that's how you're able to do all the steps you need to do without overwhelming yourself. And if you find it helpful, another thing I've done is I've also timed myself to just focus on small chunks at a time. It's called the Pomodoro technique. You set 25-minute timer and you just focus on work for 25 minutes. Cut out all distractions, hyper focus for 25 minutes. That feels very manageable. Then you take a 2-minute break, go out for a walk real quick, stretch out, drink some water. In editing, we're at our computers all day. And that can be very unhelpful and that can lead to more stress and it can lead to less patience. So the more you can kind of break away from your editing, even if it feels counterintuitive, you will be healthier, you will be less stressed, and it will make you more patient. So just set 25-minute timers throughout the day. Make sure you're focused for those 25 minutes and make sure you have clear goals for those 25 minutes on what you're going to work on. And what you're going to work on is your next tiny, manageable chunk that you have to focus on. And over time, you will develop the patience that you need, in my opinion, to become a great editor. So that's it for this one, guys. If you found this video helpful, I would love to do more of these kind of practical takeaway videos. So please let me know in the comments. If there's anything that I said that particularly resonated with you, also let me know. I would love to hear that. If there's anything else you would like to add to this topic of patience, that would also be amazing. Please feel free to put any thoughts, any and all thoughts, and I will absolutely get back to you, and I can't wait to read them. But thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.